Good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Tangent here on YouTube. This is the last Weekly Tangent for 2019. It's episode 44. We made it through 44 of these. And it's for 12/26/2019. That's Brooks. I'm Greg. Well, we finally made it to the end of this year.
Finally.
And we're getting ready to roll into 2020. So we figured we'd do what everybody else does and talk about days of yore for the video game industry, so the past year, and then talk about kind of the future, what we're looking for coming up here in 2020. It's what we were thinking about last week, but then we decided to play Sekiro, and now we're thinking about it this week.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like there's not really a lot of game news, right?
No.
Like game companies they're all moderately closed down for kind of the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So
everybody kind of shuts down.
So like the big marketing machines and that type of stuff. So no one's like, hey, we're gonna announce like a brand new thing in the middle of Christmas as if nothing else is happening in anyone's life.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think it normally would be the way. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nice time of the year where it slows down. I mean, our last show being this Thursday.
Right.
There's really nobody around. There's barely anybody in our office. There's two of us and another one of our team, Mark, and then Chris from finance, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And then that'll probably be the same, pretty much until next Thursday.
I think most of the team outside of finance, because finance will have closed or something like that, whatever. Yeah. So
a lot of people take a little bit of time off, but we decided we were going to continue on with the show. So we will have a show next Thursday, and that'll be same time, be the first one of the year, and we'll figure out what we're going to do.
I don't know what we're doing yet.
I don't know either. Yeah, it's kind of a weird time of the year, so we just we kind of wing it as we go. But we did decide to take a look at some of the games from 2019 that we really enjoyed, that may or may not be the best of the best. It really depends. I think you pick more of the winner, kind of like what everybody agrees upon, and I kind of go in a different range of what I liked and what I played. So I know you liked what you played, but you're more along the lines of the hits, not the indies.
I think I had sort of picked my list knowing that I think you were going to go in a little bit of a different direction. Yeah. So I was comfortable picking sort of the games that, I thought were the best / are the best. However you want to.
Yeah, I mean, they got the awards and things like that.
Yeah, right. So, and then we're also going to talk about some games coming out next year that we're particularly looking forward to.
And those are varying. They're not. I mean, you can't predict what everybody's going to agree upon next year. So they're very different and diverse. I'd probably say so. A little bit. So do you want to let's kick off the show? Do you want to jump in on yours? Which one?
Yeah, why don't you go grab game from 2019, number 5.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, that one makes sense. We'll both have something to say about this one, so let's fire that up. There we go.
So, this...
volume.
I ultimately picked my 5 favorite games this year. I really debated on what was going to land in 5. So I picked Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Which, after having played this one, I'm very stoked for the series moving forward. This kind of brought in a good mix of things that 7 did really well, where it was very much a survival horror game. Resident Evil 5 and 6 turned more into these like action co-op games, which I loved. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think they're great to play. This kind of brought it back more to its roots in the game. This was one of the first games I got to play on my new 4K HDR TV.
Yeah, and this one really shows it off.
This really, really shows it off.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I think, Resident Evil 2, although, I kind of have... I'm indifferent on games that are remade. Basically, instead of going down a path of creativity. Although this is creative, it's just, it's already a story that's written.
Right.
It's already been told.
Right.
They're banking, in a lot of the cases, the developers, I think, bank, or the publishers feel it's better to bank on something is going to be a success than go out on a limb
Right.
and try to build something new. I think they did a great job with Resident Evil 7. I kind of wish that they would have stayed going down that path of Resident Evil 7 instead of going back into the catalog. I know everybody has fond memories of, these games, and they're really happy that, well, I get to see it now in more of a current, view of what the game should look like instead of like the PS1 version of Resident Evil 2. I get it. I just think that revisiting things is, kind of a cop out a little bit. Not a cop out, but I mean, like it takes a little bit less.
I agree with you, and I will. And so this is some speculation here because I've not seen anyone from Capcom say this.
Yeah.
My expectation is that now that they have this formula, what they can really do is have a side team remake these games with the tech that they built. And I would suspect that what we'll get is some variant of a remake, and then the year after that, you'll get like a Resident Evil 8. Then you'll get like a Resident Evil 3.
Sure,
then
they'll have some kind of...
Some ways to kind of break it up. I really liked the first person.
Did you?
From 7. Yeah. So, having played this, I think what I appreciated most were, and there's going to be some light spoilers in this, you get to a point where Mr. X is chasing you around, and he's kind of relentless in this game.
Oh, for sure.
Because unlike the old ones, he can kind of kick down. There's no concept of loading in this game.
Right.
So you're never really safe.
So it's really quick.
He hunts you the entire time until you get to those story breakpoints where you come up with a narrative reason why he's not currently chasing after you.
Yeah.
So, and then we have a couple buddies that are a little more new to the Resident Evil franchise.
Yeah.
So just like in a way, the people I'm most excited for something like Final Fantasy VII are people that have never played it. So I know a couple people that never played 2, and I'm like infinitely jealous that they get to play this version of 2, right?
Sure. Sure, and this isn't new to Capcom. They've done this in the past. They've remade the original Resident Evil once or twice, and that's, like I said, it's not a bad thing. Companies do it. It's just, I think off of the success that they had with 7, I would have rather seen them go to 8 than worry about going to 2. I
agree.
Right. I know that they have many different teams running. It's not a problem of like it'll never happen. It's just, it's just in some ways just a cash grab because it's going to succeed, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's just I like seeing more effort, I guess, for accolades. Let's just say that. For accolades, and I'm going to be guilty of it as well, but for accolades, I'd rather see it go to games that we've never seen before. Like the people that did go and take a risk, right? Let's just say. Okay, so Resident Evil RE2 was not a problem, and it was a good pick. I would have said, and probably agreed with the majority of people, that it was a good game. It really came back. And
they can
did some amazing stuff.
They can cash grab me for RE3 because I already have that pre-order.
Yeah, exactly. So. Exactly. The next game I will take on mine. So it's kind of a funny intro. It's not necessarily like everybody's cup of tea, but again, in the indie world, you definitely get a little bit of a different vibe. And one of the games that I thought was pretty amazing was Untitled Goose Game. Mm-hmm. Untitled Goose Game came to PC right at the beginning of October, I think it was.
Yep.
Might have been October or late September. And it's done as a stealth puzzle game, right. Almost. It's kind of like Hitman.
Right.
It's got a cute character. It's a goose that just causes trouble steals things, takes things, and the goose has to use certain things to get to the next part of the level. And it's all one world. It's not like a puzzle where it loads. The whole world is open to you. You just got to unlock it. And it's got nothing, there's nothing super amazing about the ending. Although it does have a twist at the ending that, it's only a 3-hour game maybe at the most. You can play through it in one sitting. But it's interesting to see the end of the game and to kind of see what the Goose's intention is and all that. It's and you start to see like who the villain is, although there's not really a villain, but who the villain is and who's the actual
who's the nefarious actor in the
game,
right?
And who's the unwilling accomplices, the unwilling participants, right? Kind of thing. It's done well. They've done a great job with the game. The Goose itself, got a little bit of I think he got a little bit of exposure during the video game awards that we watched, where it was like parted with the Muppets and they were on stage together kind of thing. The game's developed by House, and it's a self-published game as far as I'm aware. I don't think on any other platform.
As far as I know, yeah.
It's available, actually no. I think on PC Panic is the publisher. And I think Nintendo helped publish the Switch version. And I know it just came out on PS4 because I saw Scott playing it. So I'm not 100% sure. I think they kind of went around. But the developer House did a great job. The Goose is funny. He has just a great design, and the level design is really good. So it's well worth the playthrough if you've never tried it. It's short though.
Right.
I almost did all the achievements in 5 hours. Everything that you could do in it. I have one left, and I just gave up because I was kind of tired.
Well, we had seen this thing bounce around shows for years.
Yeah, and they talked about it at a few of the PAX.
Yeah.
One E3, I think it was. I don't remember seeing it at Gamescom this year, but I know at PAX West we saw it really highlighted, like, hey, it's coming this year.
Right.
And looked really good. So, very fun game. Just done really well. Anybody can play it. It's not offensive in any way.
Right.
Thing. It's really cute. So that was my, I think, taking a leap and having success on it, and they got it onto every platform, and they were able to get it out there, and I think they did a great job. So that's it. It didn't get any awards necessarily, but it was at the Game Awards, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
right.
That was one of mine. I don't know. You think you'll end up playing it?
I've looked at it. I'm actively looking for something a little meatier to play that I can sink some time into.
Sure.
So as it stands now, it's not on my list for this year. It might be something I look into beginning of next year.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for something, a very complete game right now.
Yeah.
Or something, not that the game's not complete. That's not what I meant to say.
Yeah, no, the game is complete
in the sense of, like, I could probably buy that game on a Saturday and finish by a Sunday.
I would agree.
Right.
You could even finish it on a Saturday.
Right.
Like, it's not that long of a play. I played it first time all the way through. It's more of a game that for completionists you would play through it multiple times.
Right.
Right, to be able to finish everything up.
Right.
Yep. So, what do you want to jump into next?
Well, in the spirit of kind of what we were talking about of old versus new, why don't you grab number 4 right there?
Okay.
Yeah. So we're kind of going from 5 on up. So this is a game developed by Sony Bend.
Yep.
And it's called Days Gone. We had seen this for years.
I think I started seeing this in 2016 at E3.
Yeah. And it kind of very early on, it was getting noticed for the vast number of enemies on the screen at any one time.
Yeah.
And to my delight, and you'll kind of see this a little bit here, I kind of picked this section in particular. Back in 2016, they showed off this sequence in Days Gone where you were getting rushed by 500 zombies.
Yep.
Lo and behold, that is an actual playable sequence of this game. So you
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
get there and be like, oh, it's only 250 or it's only 300. So
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, at some points there's thousands of zombies, isn't there? I mean, they have a couple areas, not in a scenario like this, but in some of those mobs.
yeah, as far as I know, the biggest horde is 500.
It's 500. Okay.
That you can get at it at any one instance. But I mean, they've since patched the game and they've now added some kind of additional features where you can kind of replay some of the stuff.
Yep.
This was one of the games I was really happy to see delayed a couple of times.
Yeah, it got delayed like at least 2.
Yeah, 2. I actually think it might have been 3 pretty big
it 3?
delays.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, when it came out, they had implemented some kind of survival type mechanics into the game, and I actually found it to be a pretty refreshing experience because I don't know that just shooting mobs of zombies would have held up very well.
Yeah.
It was impressive, but the whole package of like your bike is kind of your companion.
Yep.
And you build these, there's kind of these like political relationships in the game, then mixed in with these like the sense of dread of like, you always kind of need to prepare. You and I have now played many games with survival mechanics in them.
Yep.
So it was a really happy addition.
Yeah,
to see it in this game.
It's definitely done a little bit different than kind of traditional survival games.
Right.
It's, you need to craft things. You need to search for resources and stuff like that. But in terms of the daily gameplay, you can play it without having to worry about that. It's more along the lines of a open world, apocalyptic survival game. It's survival. In my terms of survival, I use it more loosely, or I guess I use it more specific because there's games like The Long Dark, where The Long Dark, if you don't get the stuff you need, you die within 20 minutes.
Right.
And it's permadeath kind of thing. This game, it's far more of a Grand Theft Auto style survival game. It's kind of, where they can't
Survival
have you start,
light or something.
They can't have you
Right.
start all the way back at the beginning every time.
Yeah.
You never get through the game, right? It's almost like when you look at No Man's Sky, right? Like
Right.
when you do survival mode in that, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Because it's a 20, 30-hour game, and if you die one time, then
Deletes
you'd
your
start
save.
all the way at the
Yeah.
beginning. It would be crazy to have something like that. But to your point, it is like your point of it. It's like survival horror almost. It's a mixture of that where, you can be shocked as hell like right there when you see those coming at you.
Right.
And you've got to handle that mob. I never took on anything like this in the game, and I played for a good bit. I didn't finish it. I got to the third act.
You were like right on the cusp
at the
of
end.
seeing this, yeah.
But I mean, like, this is a little bit much in comparison to the most of the game. Actually, the game is a little bit more tame. I don't want to scare people off thinking like this is all it is. Because it's got a lot of story in it, a lot of different relationships like you talked about.
Yeah. So this ended up, and it kind of came out, and it wasn't panned, but we were looking at the scores, and we were kind of like, it was like high 70s or like low 80s.
Yeah, I
right?
felt a little bit of it was unfair. I don't know why people had such a dig on it. Like it's a quality game. It's put together great.
Yeah, and we kind of played, and we were like, I don't know, 70, that seems a little harsh, because we thought the game was really fun.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I probably would have, given that like Red Dead Redemption was like in the 90s, right? Red Dead Redemption 2 outside of the online. I would have thought this game would have fell into like the upper 70s, 80, somewhere in there. It definitely doesn't have all of the stuff of like a Red Dead Redemption, the years of 7 years of development or time or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's not a shabby game at all. I mean, I would put it at the level of like it's within the realm of Horizon, right? In terms of like quality of graphics, design.
Right.
Maybe not as much in the story. I know that that's where some people kind of felt that it fell short.
Yeah, you know, you
Welcome, Baltimore. How are
you
doing?
either heavily buy into his relationship. I think her name is Sarah in the game.
Yeah. Yep.
You either buy into it or you don't.
Yeah.
And if you're into her as a character, I'm trying to be mindful of plot events of the game, but you lose her pretty early on, and then stuff kind of starts happening around you in the story. So I know, like, I had a pretty early take of the game
Yeah.
that it's kind of this, you and your friend Boozer are kind of powing around for a while.
Yeah.
And it's the relationship the first portion of the game focuses on. And then as you start playing the game more, you start... Because that was one of the common things I heard. They were like, like Boozer's kind of just this like really generic biker dude.
Right.
Or whatever. But then you start dealing with like
His
Iron
issues
Mike
and everybody
and-
else. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I didn't have a problem with Boozer. I thought he was a pretty good companion. He was a loyal person. He helped you. I mean, when he could have left,
Right.
or you could have left him, they hang together, right? So, I mean, I think the game, if people feel that it's too cliche, then I don't know what they're expecting. Like, life is not as intricate as we may believe based upon TV shows we watch, right?
Right.
What you're looking for is like people that you can trust, and I mean that's to the level of the game. That's exactly what happens. I mean it's probably a little bit more real than I think people like to recognize. That like in something like this, I wouldn't expect for there to be award-winning like conversations. I would expect for people to try to survive.
Right. Yeah, right.
And what I got out of it was it felt very similar. Having a motorcycle was your main transportation. I thought it was a great idea, Baltimore, saying that. I think it was, man. I think that the motorcycle, it made a lot of sense. Like, in a world where this is what you got to deal with, you want to get away from it.
Right.
Right? And that's
Right.
what they tended to try to do a lot, was to stay out of this. It does have stealth mechanics in it, kind of like Last of Us.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
You're stealthing through areas. Now, Last of Us, there's not this many of those clickers or anything running around, but I mean, still the same idea.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Your bike is more than it's. I don't want to be like it's a character or whatever, but
Right.
it's sort of like it really is your companion. You can't. It's really difficult to play the game without it. You actually can't.
Yeah.
You really have to like. You treat it like
You have to be able to manage gas a little bit better than the stars.
Sure. Well, yeah. But you really have to. You can end up in some bad places if you mismanage your bike.
Yeah.
Right. So just, I mean, to your point, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with it. Where, if this was real life, you and you were in this spot, you would be hanging on to that bike for dear life. And if you lose that bike in this game, you are in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw in it was a little bit more. It was far more realistic in the idea, the notions. Not maybe surviving a horde like this, but like the mechanics of the game made more sense to me in a post-apocalyptic type setting.
Right.
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 Like it's definitely a very, very like realistic take on a person trying to survive like this kind of an event kind of thing, rather than like, yeah, this is a good end to that. Rather than like Fallout, right? Where Fallout is based around like everything runs on nuclear power, and like even the clock in your house is nuclear powered and things like that. We don't have anything like that. This is more like this is a timeline that would be from where we're at today and could happen kind of thing if you were to think about it. It's a great game. I like the game.
I have recommended it to almost everyone.
Yeah,
I know that plays.
I think it's well worth. And now it's like what, $19. The shame is it's only available on PS4 right now. But I mean, it's under $20. I think they were selling it during the holidays. I mean, it's a great game for that. You can't beat it.
Every game.
It's at least 40 hours.
I'm looking at kind of both our list. I think all of those are worth full price as it is. So like, I know a couple people for holiday sales. They were like, "Oh, I got Horizon Complete and Days Gone and God of War for $50," and I'm just like,
yeah. I know,
why am I buying games on day one when they come out? Right?
That's how it is. That's how it is. No, I liked Days Gone. Days Gone was a great game. One of the ones that I finished early on in the year was Devil May Cry 5. And I really enjoyed... I used to enjoy the Devil May Cry fighting style. And then I found Dark Souls.
Right.
But I still don't mind like the Bayonettas and the Devil May Cries of the world, because they're fast, they're furious, they are hack and slash. Well, they're not even hack and slash; they're just beat 'em ups, right? I mean, that's really what they are. But Devil May Cry's got a lineage in games that dates back to like PS2, I think it was, and it was really kind of designed off of the Resident Evil engine back then, which was horrible for this kind of a game.
Right.
Now that they've got, a much better, more vibrant, fast-paced. I mean, it's Devil May Cry is almost Bayonetta now. I mean, it's not as over the top as Bayonetta. It's still over the top, but it's not as over the top as Bayonetta. But it's got a great gameplay. They really, now whether just Dark Souls made me better at fighting games or these types of action games, I don't know, but like I was able to get through this game on hard within like 8 hours, never died except for the end.
That's, so unfortunately, I didn't finish this. I got it. I played through. I just unlocked the bike with Dante in the game. And it's on my machine right now. I've been leaning into, this might be the thing I pick up and play.
I would finish it. I thought it was a great end of the game, great game all the way through. Like the three characters have so unique styles.
I loved the addition of V and how you played with the creatures around him.
Like the three spirit kind of animal things. I think it was three, right?
Yeah, it's like a panther, a bird, and that rock thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, V was a great addition. Dante probably is the most overpowered character I've ever seen.
That's what you said.
By the time you get all the weapons and you get the motorcycle, his arsenal is massive.
Yeah, well, we even got into the office and we'd both been kind of playing and we were like, you think this game's a little easy? And I was like, yeah, I don't think I died on one boss. Like,
I'm
not
surprised
once.
that they haven't come out with, and they might have. I haven't visited the game since I beat it. I did it all. I bought it, beat it in one day, and I hadn't went back and played it again. I've thought about it, but I want to say maybe they've added in like even more hardcore mode. I don't know. I would have to think that they got that feedback.
I think so. I guess we might find out soon enough.
Yeah.
One thing the game does, and it's kind of quiet in this regard, the game runs in 4K HDR to locked 60, and it doesn't hitch. It visually is stunning to look at.
It's probably one of the best looking games that came out last year.
Yeah, it looks really, really good.
Yeah. They did a great job. Like I said, I enjoyed it, went all the way through one shot. And like I said, if it would have been a little bit more difficult, I probably wouldn't have done it in one shot. It was almost perfect in that way. Although it was a little easier, I got to see the whole thing. I got a challenge out of it. And really enjoyed the experience. And I like all three characters now. I didn't really like Nero all that much, but in Devil May Cry DMC, right? The one before this, didn't really care for that, and that was
that was done by Ninja Theory.
Yeah, we were just talking about Ninja Theory in that sense. So I think that probably PC is the way to go with this. But as Brooke said, you can play 4K 60 on even the PS4 Pro, I think it is. You have to have the Pro, but it's a fabulous looking game. plays well. All the enemies are just phenomenal. The story is good.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good things about it.
And this is a statement more about Capcom.
Yeah.
That just in recent memory, between Monster Hunter Worlds and Iceborne and Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2, they've
really been on a hot streak.
Every game they've made has been really good.
Yep.
And in the past, there was some not great games that, they were just, some games were good, but just like all those games, I think, are very good at what they do now, right?
Yeah, I think that there was a run of, they were trying to capture, and it's all down to gaming. Gaming always has like variations of trends that go through
definitely.
This game, I think, got away from, like, DMC was a little too, not linear, because they're all linear, but it was a little too just, it had just a recipe they used over and over in every level.
Right.
And this one, I think, with the change up of the different characters, because you're not always playing Nioh, you're not always playing Dante, you're not always playing V, you're jumping back and forth. V was a new addition, had many different ways you could play with that character. Dante had variations of weapons that were just ridiculous and were fun to use the entire time. Obviously there's a perfection. You saw there, you get like graded on everything you do. So people, there is replay value, even if it's a little too easy. Let's just say that. To go through and try to perfect everything that you do in the game and get, what is it, the SSS plus, whatever rating it is, the highest one, you're going to take some time to play through it. Yeah, it is. It's different, Fixstar. It's a little. There's some unique stuff, and the character design. She was saying tough bug. There's definitely a lot of design in this game, and there's a lot of caring in every animated or animation of every enemy, of every character. They put it all in there.
Well, there's a really interesting backstory. The original Devil May Cry was actually a Resident Evil game for a while.
Yep.
And then, kind of towards the end of development, they were like, okay, these characters in this world is not like, we're not dealing with like a virus.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with like, not that everything within Resident Evil is done through a lens of like government-sponsored
science, things like
science.
that. Yeah.
This is like otherworldly.
Yeah, this is paranormal kind of stuff. It's kind of, there was a run where Capcom wanted to use these engines multiple times, and they had Resident Evil, they had Onimusha,
right?
They had Devil May Cry, and then they had Haunting Ground. I think we're all on the same ideal platform, but then they were like, no, let's take it and change it up. Let's kind of try something different with these. Yeah. So that was my fourth one, or my second one of the 5. We picked 5 each, if you're curious.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's jump to which one do you want to do now?
Just grab that one right there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, for fear of talking about this one more time, the next 3 on my list, I could have called these, any of these could have been a 1. And to me, this year had so many good games, and for fear of saying this, that I almost don't, I don't know, we'll see what happens next year, but every year I continue to be impressed with the games that come out, and in particular, Sekiro was the first really good game this year. I loved this game.
Yeah.
This is my favorite From Software game by a lot.
Yeah.
And I think probably ultimately the reason I didn't put it as my 1 is the story doesn't resonate with me in the way that my top 2 games do, where I absolutely love the story. The story here is, it's kind of a fight for the who's in charge of the throne, basically. But it really, to me, it just allows for this really typical From Software, excellent design, right? So it's kind of just like the palette with through you fight various samurai and ninjas, and then I mean by the end of the game you're fighting dragons and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, no, it's
right?
going into fantasy.
The thing I particularly like about this is I went into this thinking we were getting Dark Souls with a ninja, and that's kind of not what we got.
Yeah.
The game is it's got this really interesting parry tech in it that I went into the game and I tried to play it like Bloodborne, and it doesn't work like that.
Sure.
You really have to like go up and be challenging these enemies. You can't just like dodge, roll, go in, dodge, roll, go in, right? You really have to like mano a mano the fights. And in the past From games, anytime I got stuck, I would either call a friend and bring him into the world, or I would go farm a bunch of XP and just have enough, life or power.
Yeah.
This game, you absolutely cannot. You can't farm your way to victory. If you when you take down Ape there or whatever, when you take him down, you earned that fight in every sense of the word. So it's a very rewarding. There were days where I got up on a Saturday, and people were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm fighting ape today."
Yeah.
And come Saturday night, they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I almost got ape down." Some of those boss fights take a day to learn how to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I liked the game. I thought it was good. I didn't finish it, but I can tell you, it's a good-looking game. I think all of the From Software games have something unique to them.
Yeah.
And they're all probably my favorite developer out there. So all of their games, outside of that one, I platinum. So I really think they all have their own unique style, and you can parry in a lot of them the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just put more emphasis on it in this one.
Right.
But I know that I've watched people do other games
Right.
the same way and never roll. I think that there's less building in this one than there is in Dark Souls.
Definitely. Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing, because in Dark Souls you can build so many different characters, so many different ways. You experience the game differently. Here, I think you experience the game the way that they want you to, like the design.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
it's more of a
well
a full game
Well
than
said.
it is like a RPG style.
Your character and my character at the end of the game are probably very similar.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. In Dark Souls, although it's very similar.
Well,
in the
sure,
same
yeah.
way, you could be two different scales of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Right? You could focus completely in unique ways. And I like that fact, but I think that this game looked better than most of them. Dark Souls 3, close. That was the game that they did prior to this one, or finished prior to this one, in terms of their kind of design.
There's one area of the game in particular that I think looks better than the rest too.
Yeah.
They do some. It's pretty deep into the game. It's basically branch one of the secret ending where they take you to a full secret world.
Yeah.
And they do a lot with water and trees and cherry blossoms and the sky, and it's just I really liked the game.
Yeah, it's really good. It got Game of the Year in the awards, so
Right. Yeah.
that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And it was up against a lot of competition.
At this point, you kind of said something similar here a moment ago. They're like, From Software's like, we got a game, and I'm like, buy it.
Yeah.
That's all I really
It doesn't
need to.
really bother me to just spend money on it.
Right. I'm positive that every game they make is good.
Yeah.
Right. So, which I just bursting with excitement to see what Elden Ring looks like.
Yeah, that'll be
Right.
an interesting
Yeah.
one where they hook up with the guy that made
Martin. Yeah.
Martin,
the Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah.
Or Song of Fire and Ice. Sorry.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting thing to see.
Yep.
All right. My next game, let's see here. Where did it go? Is very similar in the design
Right.
of Sekiro, not at the same. I can't, sit there and go like, oh, it's the same level. I've got to find the right clip. There's so many I had. I want to find something that's a little bit unique. Okay, this will work for now. So, The Surge 2, we played this when it came out on the show, and I really like this game. I think that The Surge was a good try for Deck 13 to come into and try to do something closer to Dark Souls. And funny enough, we're picking a lot of like these hack and slash beat 'em ups, but
Sure.
They are challenging. They're done really well. I think the original Surge had a great beginning to it. Like, everybody was excited when they first played the Surge for the first 5-10 minutes.
It's like Sci-Fi Souls.
It was an amazing, like, okay, we've got a guy that, is down, he's coming in for a new job. He, instead of stands up off the train, he rolls out in a wheelchair, so they've got a different angle on it. He is getting fitted for these bionics that allow him to control these machines, that allows him to do his work. Something goes horribly wrong. Surgery screwed up. The guy wakes up screaming in the middle of it, and then it goes to black, and then you wake up in a junkyard like you were tossed aside.
Right.
So then you're like, okay, I'm ready for this. And you start to play into the game, and the problem with the Surge was it was a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
And it was not really... There wasn't a lot of fun in the game. It was cool because it was really close to what Dark Souls and everything was trying to be, but it just wasn't fun. It was unique, but it wasn't fun. I think they fixed a lot of that in the Surge 2, and I think they made it very close to what a From Software level of quality is. It's not From Software exactly, but it's on that bar. They're right there, like the beginning of like Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1. They're right there now, and I think if they go down this road, they're going to continue to get better and better at it. And the Surge is a good property. I mean, this one, being able to go through, you're still in this kind of futuristic world. You really start out in a prison in this one. I think you are an inmate in it, or no, you were on a plane crash, and I don't know if they convicted you or if they just took you there, but it ultimately starts there. You start working your way through your variations of the bosses and the mini bosses, and like different levels start to get really cool. It goes up in height and down, so it's very similar to Dark Souls instead of just, flat out like a linear path. You can go in many different ways. You can open up lots of shortcuts, and the shortcuts are meaningful. They just put a little bit more effort into the design, and I think they're getting a lot of support from Focus, who's the publisher, Focus Home Interactive. So I think Deck 13 has a good shot at really putting up a challenger. Surge 2, well worth the playthrough.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's, I think right now, on some of the sales, it's somewhere around $30. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if that's what it is on PS4 and Xbox and all that, but on PC, I know it's like in the $30 range. So it definitely fits the mold. Plenty of gameplay in it. Solid, mechanic. It's really fun.
I find the games, this style of game, to be rewarding.
Yeah.
When you go through, and some people are like, man, these bosses are tough, and that's true, they are. But you also get this sense of like accomplishment when you finish them. And I mean that in regards to, like, I was just playing Luigi's Mansion and you roll the bosses in the game. And it's kind of more the experience,
it's more the
and
story,
the fun and the graphics that you really appreciate, because the bosses are sort of like, I don't think I died one time.
Right.
Right. Whereas something like this, it's got a really, that's one of the things I really appreciate about this.
Yeah. And there's a lot of unique gameplay in this. Like, there's a lot. The weapons are now far more creative. They're far more like, they leave a lot of like options and choice to build a character out with, which is similar to Dark Souls, right? Again, where it's we were just talking, it's not really Sekiro. It's more of Dark Souls, where you can build a character on like a wide spectrum, right? In between, there's a lot of variation.
If I have an ask for the next one, I would love to see him try for co-op.
I think that's one of the things. Like there's a quasi multiplayer component in it where there's challenges and stuff like that, but you never see, as far as I ran into, you never ran into like a character that you had to fight. You run into your friends' dead bodies
Right.
that like reanimate and things like that. But it's more along the lines of, what am I thinking of? The asynchronous style
Right.
multiplayer,
Yeah,
right? Where they're not really playing, it just records their information and kind of puts it into the world as like an enemy you have to face kind of
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Right. And
I would like to see it as co-op as well.
And that's one of the things in some of the From Software games where it's like, we'll all be playing it and everyone's like, oh, come check this out. I found this path in my game or whatever. Or like, so that's just minor, but.
Yeah, I mean, the game in terms of like reception, really high scores, probably in the 8s, 9, somewhere in between there. And it's got a lot of positive reviews from users. So,
Yeah.
I'd tell anybody to check it out. If you're looking for, if you've went through the Souls and the Bloodborns of the world and Sekiro's over and you're looking for something in the middle, it's a game. I don't know if I'd sit there and kind of say, oh, go check out, the dismemberment thing. I forgot about that. There's different ways to like dismember different body parts, and you can actually use those moving forward. So that was kind of a unique way to play.
If you have played all the Souls games and you've never played the Surge or Surge 2, go check this game out. This is a great game.
I think I would probably go with Surge 2 rather than Surge.
So would I.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one that came out this year and really surprised me. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. Oops, there's our list of stuff. You might have seen some names. Let's see, which one do you want to go with next? You're on to your number 2, so we're down to the last
grab
few.
my number 2. Yeah.
No, that's mine. Let's
there you go.
There it is, right there.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, so after years and years and years of cryptic trailers that told us nothing, we all finally got to play Death Stranding at the end of this year. I had been actively following this game more or less on a daily basis for about 3.5 years.
Yep.
I still remember the E3 where Sony got on stage, and at this point, he had no game engine, he had no real functional team.
Yep.
But Sony was like, Kojima's making an exclusive thing for us.
We're gonna throw some money at it.
And that's just another one of those. I was immediately sold on the partnership of, I really like the publisher, I like the platform, I like the developer. So I was really optimistic. And then we went through these few years we saw these trailers and we didn't see gameplay of this until weeks before this came out.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of us didn't even see it then because I refused to watch it.
Right.
I didn't want to know much about it towards the end.
And we'll get into why I renamed this file. I had this at 1 and the other game is 2, and I went back and forth, and I'll tell you why I put this at 2. It's because the game that I picked after this, I got to a point when I was playing this game where the story was all I cared about anymore. At about chapter 9, I kind of stopped worrying about the combat. I stopped worrying about my star rating. And I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know what all these pieces were. I wanted to know what the story was. I knew that there was going to be, at the end of the game, there's about a 2-hour movie that you watch.
Yeah.
It is outright like a 2+ hour cutscene.
Sam, we want you to go west and finish
But
what Emily's.
I didn't get a platinum in this game, and I thought I would. Right? I loved the world. I loved the characters. I loved the actors.
We need you to
I still don't know who approved the
This is
you get touched by the invisible thing, and then the dolphin appears, and that really makes no kind of sense. Higgs, another. Oh, these character designs are just impeccable.
Yeah, everything is like top notch.
And, you know, kind of to your point, had he made Metal Gear 6, I probably would have played it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we got this instead.
Yeah.
Right? I was happy with this. I found the gameplay really refreshing. It was kind of calm, but it was also like, that's not to say it's not stressful, because it is. Oh, see, there goes your packages, bud. But yeah, just everything you see here. It looked great. It played great. The cutscenes were great.
Yeah.
I really liked talking to everyone about this too.
Yeah.
That I think all but one of my closest friends has pretty much played through this now. Right?
Yeah, I've taken my time with it. I'm probably about 70 hours in. I would guess that it's been about 10 hours per level. Although a level's not 10 hours. Or chapter. I played it very much like I want to get the platinum of this, like all the star ratings, everything like that. So
right.
I've spent the time and effort to go through and like do all the meaningless, you know, the more not meaningless, but the more mundane, like you have to like do this over and over to get it correct, or go here, do that, go here, find this, and probably delivered far more stuff than I'd ever have to. But the game itself is, I've really enjoyed every aspect of the game.
Right.
So I think it's been great. I think that a lot of people would really appreciate playing it, giving it a shot. I mean, it got kind of reception similar to Days Gone, which is ridiculous. But I think that they're both treated unfairly in a sense.
I guess ultimately my position on this is I think he knows his audience really, really well.
Yeah.
That if you're a big fan of his past games, like if you were into the cutscenes in Metal Gear 4, it would be right up your alley.
Yeah, this would make sense.
If you went into this thinking you were getting like a tactical action shooter, I could see how that's kind of like some of the criticism I saw, is that they thought they were getting like a Metal Gear game, and
right.
I've never had any anticipation we were getting a Metal Gear game in this. Right.
Yep.
So, and then kind of right before launch, they did something that I was really pleased with, and they're bringing it out on PC.
Yeah.
And I really want to see this like ray traced on a 2080 in 4K, because I already think the game looks great. Like it visually looks striking, and this is on like a 6-year-old PlayStation 4.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, they put a little bit of effort into the development of it, but I think on a PC, I don't know if you're going to get much more than what you got. I really don't. I don't think the game is built to be more than what it is, and if it is anything, it's just going to be some upscaling.
One more tier of up.
I don't really think you're going to see this game be an 8K game. I think it looks great the way it is. I don't think you have to do anything more. Yeah. I was really happy with it. I mean, I'm really happy with it because I'm still playing it. Like I spend, a few hours every day here and there. So to me, this will probably be 100+ hour game, I would imagine.
Yeah, my completion clocked in at about 60, and every person I know is like, I thought I was high ranked or whatever when I ended, and I was like, okay, I ended like 250 or something like that. A handful of you guys are gonna be 400 or 500
something.
Yeah, you're gonna be 500 by the end of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would love to see that async kind of building concept, that shared building.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that again, or see how that, if...
I'm curious what's going to happen with the game, because I still don't understand why there's the login option that's not available, and there's some other stuff.
Right.
Right? So I think that they could add more to the game and take the metadata and utilize that in some unique way that it adds more to what you're playing. I don't know. It just you play it And it really opens up a lot of possibilities. Plus, it looks really amazing. Like the world, everything in it. I think having it be a little bit out there with like the dolphins and craziness that happens when you get touched by a BT.
Right.
I think it's perfect for it. I mean, I get the whole idea around it. It's like, you know, you're stuck in the middle of living and dying, really.
Okay.
That's where he is, right? Your character. I mean, it's really cool.
Sure, yeah. Having played this now, he's already talking about making a horror game, and I'm just sitting there like, do that with the horror game next.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty interesting. I think that his continual work and efforts that he puts in, I mean, it just continues to build a legacy for him that's, you know, rivals some of the best, like Miyamoto.
Right, yeah.
So I can't complain.
I'm an easy sell on his next game.
Yep. Let's see. The next one that I have lined up is one. So I took a little bit of a liberty here. This game actually came out in 2018, but it only came out on one system. It came out on PC in 2019, just this summer. Mm-hmm. So I kind of took a liberty of it because I was going to do the same thing with Red Dead Redemption 2. Because it just came out on PC as well.
Right.
And it's not that we were looking at only PC games, but in a general sense, the idea around having it available on more than one platform, it allows others to see it. And I think that Red Dead automatically got a pass from everybody kind of going, yeah, we're going to put some money into this and we're going to spend, and it doesn't matter if it's available on PC. It was a back and forth on, is it going to be available on Epic or is it available on Rockstar's platform or here? This is a game that Squaresoft did that I think went under the radar. And after playing it, I haven't gotten through the game completely, but after playing the game, I want to say that it's, whether or not it was underrated by not getting enough press, the game itself really is reminiscent of some of the stuff that Square did back in the day of PS1. This probably is the first game I've played from them that I thought was on par with, like,
I have not played this yet.
A Final Fantasy, true Final Fantasy 7, 6, 5, you know, any of the real ones.
Right.
Not that the 15 and that aren't real.
I think our other coworker Chris is a really big fan of this game too.
This game is done extremely well. It definitely has adult. It keeps adults in mind, right? Like the story and things like that that's happening in it are more adult themed than it is for kids.
Okay.
Although it doesn't look like that. It is, and it deals with some heavy subjects and things like that.
My interest is now piqued.
There's 8 characters that you play, that you can find, and you can choose who you want to play as, things like that. I gotta say though, being on Switch, it is nice to be able to play it wherever and whenever you want. Mm-hmm. The game has a pretty decent save mechanism. It's not like you can save every minute. You can't scum save, but it's got a fairly open world that you travel through, and not open world, but like fairly vibrant world that you can stop and save when you want. There's this whole like pixel design to the game, and then there's hand-drawn components to it.
Okay.
And it's like your enemies are hand-drawn, but you're pixelated. It's kind of got this really interesting look and feel to the game. And like I said, being on PC, I don't think you're really going to get much of a lift in terms of graphic quality. I think the Switch does it just fine. It doesn't do 4K, but you know, I think it looks just fine, and especially when you play it in handheld mode, it's kind of nice to be able to play, because these are longer games. I don't know exactly how long this game is, but I'm pretty sure it's going to clock in somewhere between 30 and 40 hours at the bare minimum. Right? It definitely has a lot of story, and talking with Chris, it really opens up even more than where you're at in the beginning. And I've played through majority of the beginning component of it.
Is the combat all turn-based?
It is.
It is. Okay.
It is, but it's got, you know, just like the older games from Final Fantasy, they always had like some timing component or some unique component to the actual like fighting
Right.
that you had to learn, and it's got that as well. So they've done a really good job, and they probably could have called it Final Fantasy. But I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that they took a new path on
Yeah.
it, right?
Right.
And really, or maybe they'll build a new true franchise out of Octopath. But looks great, plays well. Square Enix is really doing
I'm really
a
interested.
good job as well with their products, right? Like you can't. I mean, Final Fantasy 15. Some people like it, some people don't, but it is an amazing game, and they've put a lot of effort behind that game.
This and
to make it
15
yeah.
and Kingdom Hearts 3 and
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts
yeah.
3 is, some people argue whether it's good or bad mechanics, but the game itself, even if you don't like Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and things like that, if you play, if you play the game for the experience, you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? It can really live without.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts franchise it has Disney in it, but it doesn't need it. It's actually a really good franchise.
Right.
So I was really happy with Octopath. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out and you like JRPGs, it's definitely worth giving it a shot.
Interesting.
So that was one of my surprise ones. And like I said, it did come out on PC this year, so that's why it made it in for me. We write the rules. Let's see. You want to talk about your number one?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Where did that go?
Right up. There you go.
There we go.
So I went back and forth quite a bit when we were talking about this. If there was a game B that I'd been looking forward to for the last few years that wasn't Death Stranding, it was absolutely Control from Remedy.
It wasn't Death Stranding.
I've been a big fan of every game. Every single game they've made, I've thought was good. I think Quantum Break before this was almost a little ahead of its time.
Yep.
This is, the way I describe this is the best Star Wars game that's ever been made, because your control powers in the game are very much something that remind me of like Jedi abilities.
Yeah.
It's kind of this, so it takes place, it's got this like brutalist architecture, and you're in a building that's called the Oldest House, and very early on in the game you become the director of the building, basically.
Okay.
And you've got this weapon that you keep the weapon the whole game, and your ability to swap it out kind of changes like the weapon's
Does the weapon upgrade itself?
No, you upgrade the weapon. So you earn new versions of it, and then you can upgrade it. So it's got really, really interesting building mechanics of how you equip mods and gear and weapon.
Yeah.
Like you have personal mods and weapon mods. It takes place in a really big, it's kind of like a Metroidvania game. So early on in the game, you'll run into spots where you're like, okay, like I don't have the tool that I need right now.
Okay.
Right? There's a moment in the game that is probably outright my favorite, if I had to say my favorite 30 minutes of gaming this year. Once you have access to the ashtray maze and you have the tools to run through it, it is an absolutely stunning experience. Like I played it with like the biggest smile on my face the whole time.
Yeah.
It is it's like if you've played the game this far, it feels like the developer built something for you to use all of your powers at once finally.
Okay.
And it kind of, if you're familiar with the movie Inception, the Chris Nolan movie.
Yep.
It's kind of like Inception the game at that point. You're bouncing off walls, you've got all these cool weapons. Everything about the game, just like the story was great, the art was great, the level design was great, the boss design walked right up to like, once you get to access to the secret bosses, you don't run in there and just shoot the thing down with bullets. It's
right.
It's not, I don't want to say it's quite a Souls thing, but it's definitely got that level of punishment to it where you have to play it, learn, and then you kind of get the hang of how you got to deal with the situation. So that was probably my favorite game this year.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
It looks interesting. I have not even tried it and haven't looked at it. Just didn't have time,
Right.
in the general sense. But that's how it goes, right? That's why you have some variation here towards the end,
Right.
which is kind of nice.
I will look forward to when you do get around to it, because it is, from what I've seen and read,
Yeah.
it is considered like if you want to see ray tracing at its finest, this is the game that you do
Yeah.
it with, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, very cool. The last game that we were talking about, so this is my, funny enough, number one game of 2019. Then we'll jump in and talk about the upcoming top picks for 2020, what we think. But for mine, I think a lot of people were surprised. This game, not that it came out of nowhere, but Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled really kind of put a competitor on the map for a game franchise, for a game genre that's really owned by one company. Nintendo is owned,
Frankly, one series. Right.
One character. Mario Kart has owned like this karting racing series, probably racing in general, as one of the most fun, family-friendly games out there.
Mm-hmm.
Although, in my opinion, it's kind of easy, right? Like Mario Kart itself, unless you're racing against your friends, it's not that challenging.
Sure.
This game, the moment that you start, the first track is just brutally difficult. It is just unforgiving from the moment you start the game until it's loading. Sorry, I thought it was going to load through into I must have clicked into a non-race part. The game, when you first start playing, does not go easy on you at any level. Literally, I played through the first track, the first 10 minutes, or the first one race for an hour before I ever won.
Oh, you were getting your ass kicked, you were saying.
Oh.
Yeah.
There is just no into, like, the amount of unforgiving mechanics that the AI has.
Right.
When you miss, like, not hitting a boost or something like that, it trounces you. It does not give you any reprieve. It's just on you the whole time. And I thought that was refreshing. Not that the fact of everybody would like it, right? But that they took an effort to build something that was better than what was in the market.
Right.
Not cash in on something. And Crash Team Racing has been around for a long time. It was on the original PS1. It made its appearance on PS2 in two variations, in Xbox and, GameCube.
It was
and
kind
PS3.
of like a little bit of the games always felt like a little bit of an afterthought. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the most fair term to use, but
It definitely falls into that category of like, well, probably the only real competitor a lot of people felt was out there was Diddy Kong Racing to Mario Kart, right? Like, if you really go back and you start to look at like when those were, the only thing that was really getting close was like Diddy Kong, and they only ever made one of those. But a lot of people like reminisce to that one. There's been like Chocobo Racing, there's been from Square, there's been all these different types of competitors. I really think like Crash Team Racing has finally, gotten to the level and surpassed like what Mario Kart was doing.
did you like Mod Nation Racers?
I did. I liked Mod Nation. I thought it was fun. A lot of it's very creative.
Okay.
Right? Your a lot of it was building.
Right.
This is truly racing.
Okay.
Right? Like this is just enjoy it. Now, I will say, in the beginning, and especially on the Switch, it was horrible to play online. There was really no online.
Okay.
It was broke.
Okay.
They've subsequently fixed that.
Cool.
So now you can play, and they continue to add stuff to it. I think that they'll be able to build on this. I think that I would have liked to actually have played it on PS4 or Xbox to see what it was like. But I ended up only playing it on the Switch, and I actually liked it so much I bought it for people.
Okay.
Because I think it's that good of a game to sit there and play. And I don't know, you wouldn't think there's a lot to talk about in a kart racer, but the level of challenge that they put in this game,
Right.
the difficulty in just that first race was really like opened my eyes and like made me think like, oh, this is totally different than the other one. The other ones like Crash Team Racing for the GameCube or the original Crash Team for PS1. I could blow through those. Like first time I sat down, first match done. First race out of the way, on to the next one. Not in this one. It's a little tough, and that's a good thing. Yeah, Baltimore's played it as well. Yeah, kind of. Always a big fan of Diddy Kong. I like Diddy Kong. I like Chocobo Racing. I liked all those other ones that they were trying to get out there and do. And the only one I really never liked was, and it's unfair, but like Little Big Planet karting
Right.
was not the greatest game.
Right.
Like they tried to do something unique with it, where it was take like the idea of building. Mod Nation was a much better racer.
Right.
Right. Than
Right.
that one. But this is like truly without like all the other like divergence, like create your cars and create your characters and build tracks. Like this one is just a good solid
Cool.
racing game. Yeah, this is one to not miss. It's surprisingly good.
Yeah, this got kind of lost in my shuffle this year of just playing through a lot of like core story-based single-player games. So that's why I didn't jump on this one.
You don't always get a chance to play mini games,
Right.
or every game out there. And this was one that I was playing because of like the channel and because I wanted to try to, play some different games, things like that, and do some different recordings that I ended up finding and really enjoyed. And I think that a lot of people, it's kind of funny. The game hasn't really dropped in price all that much. I think it came out at $39, and the cheapest I've seen it is around $29.
Okay.
So they really didn't go out and kind of just give the game away. Activision believes in the franchise. They've been doing DLC for it. They've bettered all of the online multiplayer, so the game is actually feasible to play multiplayer.
Right.
And like I said, I mean, if that doesn't look like Mario Kart, it's all unique characters. But I mean, they looked at Mario Kart's model and they're like, okay, we can do this, but we can make it harder.
Right. Right.
I've really enjoyed it. So that was the games for 2019 of what we thought. Obviously, if you guys want to give us your top 10, just throw it in the comments. We read everything. We'd love to hear it. You can always follow up and lay the comments out. You don't have to talk about it in here in the comments, but you can always put a comment on the actual video and say like what your top 10 are. It's always interesting to hear because everybody's got some unique different things.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Obviously, I liked Death Stranding, and I think Brooks and I share a lot of those ones. So we tried to do different ones, but
we tried to not have the same top 5 list.
Yeah, I mean,
us,
it would
right?
just
I
be
mean,
talking
it was
about
just
like Death Stranding, kind of thing.
Because we've never talked about that on this show before. So
Yeah, Howard
right.
enjoyed it. I enjoy it. Like, it's a solid racing game, Baltimore. It's definitely fun. So, do we want to? We can probably cruise through the 2020 ones in the next half hour, but I know you had one that you wanted to talk about separately.
We don't even really have to do that one if we want to just go through the 2020 games because I think we can fit it in. Long story short of that was there was one game this year, and I don't think we need to necessarily put the video up, but I was really looking forward to Borderlands 3 this year.
Yeah.
And when it came out, I just didn't have the same love for it that I did from 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the one thing this year that I had the same feeling about this game I got when I played Crackdown 3.
Yeah.
Where I loved Crackdown 1 and 2. It might be one of my favorite franchises on Xbox. And 3 came out and I was just like, you just made a better looking version of what you already did.
Yeah.
And this game, it's got great characters. It looks striking, like when you play this like 4K HDR
Oh, yeah.
with the cell shading. I just didn't have that much fun actually playing the game.
I think it's, you know, I don't know if it's comparing it to like a Destiny in that sense. Like the game was good to me as well, but I lost interest in it. And this happens a lot with the Borderlands series. It's not that they're bad games for me. It's not that I can't get into that because I've played a lot of Destiny and I've played a lot of Borderlands 2. Borderlands 1, the pre-sequel, and 3 all had the same problems for me. I got disinterested in the game.
Me too.
Midway through it. For some reason or another, just, you know, I don't know what it was about Borderlands 2. It was a much better game in my opinion, and it held my interest far longer than any of the other ones. But this is not an inherently bad game. I just don't know what it is. Maybe Borderlands 1 I didn't really have a lot of people I was playing with at the time. Didn't really get the full co-op experience. In Borderlands 2 potentially I did, because that's all I did was play with a bunch of people.
I don't think I ever played 2 alone.
Yeah, and that might have been why I got my fill of it. And then we played Destiny. Well, you played it for a lot longer than I did, but I enjoyed it, and I don't know what it is about the Borderlands franchise after that. It just hasn't been able to compete, although it is itself, it's very unique. And I did get a chance to see the end of the game, playing with other people in Borderlands 3.
Right.
But just, I don't know, just got disinterested in it. I know I had a lot of friends. Baltimore was one of them, playing a lot of Borderlands 3, as well as Sarah. She played all the way through it. Scott played all the way through it.
Right.
I just didn't really find it as interesting.
After having played, I'm confident that in the last 3 years, I've probably played 4,000 hours of looters between both divisions, Destiny, every piece of content.
Lots of those, yeah.
I played Anthem Endgame. Name another person that played Anthem Endgame, right? So some of the shine of there's lots of guns to loot, it is kind of worn off because I've now seen this done in so many games.
Yeah.
Right? So...
There were some unique things, like being able to jump in the back of the one character when they transformed into their super.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, there were some cool things that, and the running around, the guns that ran around were funny, and the one gun that Sarah ended up finding where it shot guns at that everybody could pick up. That was pretty cool.
Right.
But then, I don't know. At that point, my favorite thing about Borderlands is Claptrap.
Right.
That's what it becomes. He's funny. Baltimore was saying that they overpromised and underdelivered on Crackdown 3. Yes, they did.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
His 2020 prediction is Cyberpunk, which I will tell you that's a good prediction. His favorite game was RE2 of 2019, which
definitely.
That was at the beginning of the show,
definitely.
Baltimore, before you'd even showed up. That we said that one as well.
Yeah.
They're supposed to use the cloud to somehow increase the destructible buildings. Oh yeah.
Oh, V1 of the game,
Crackdown.
The physics processed on the server and what they showed off, it looked
pretty amazing.
The entire city would melt down, and then what you got was not this crappy 8-player multiplayer mode where buildings looked like Tetris pieces. It was
it kind of. It was free, and I didn't even play it after I looked at it. It's horrible. Let's jump over to... Okay, I will throw one thing in here real fast. It's not a disappointment of the year, but an honorable mention.
Okay.
And I enjoy the game. I haven't finished it yet because I've, again, been playing through at a pace where I enjoy playing at. And it falls into the same category that we talk about for Dark Souls and everything else.
Right.
This is Code Vein, and it's Bandai Namco. I last week, joking or funny enough, I wasn't joking. I thought that From Software had a hand in development for this because it is so much like Bloodborne.
Yeah.
It's shocking. The game is really good though. It's done really well. Code Vein you go through and you play in this kind of anime style world of vampires, and it's I guess it would be considered cell shaded.
Yeah.
Right. It's a little bit more detailed though than kind of Borderlands, but still in kind of that same look and feel. The game mechanic is unique. The world is kind of unique that you're playing in. It's probably more of a mixture between like Bloodborne and the Surge one. Is where I would
That's
put it.
fair. Yeah.
It's not necessarily at the same design level of like a Dark Souls, Sekiro, or Bloodborne, but it's got some of those components in it. But it's far more along the lines of like a Surge 2,
Right.
at that world level quality. But the game is amazing. It's fluent. It runs well. The bosses are a little bit easier.
Right.
Some of them
This is
were
what we
tougher.
talked
Some of
about
them
when
were
we were
easier.
playing.
It does have the co-op though, which is a nice thing.
Yep.
Right? Like you can play with others in this game, which is sorely what like Surge is missing. Sekiro didn't have it, but there was a reason it was designed without it.
Sure.
But it does have that co-op, and it's a fun game to play. A lot of people didn't care for it. It got mixed reviews. I think that it overall has a good score and good, reception. But people that I know that like Dark Souls did not like this game, which is fair. I mean, it's not a Dark Souls game,
Yep.
right? In that sense.
Yeah, we played. If I had one ask,
Oh, thanks, Fixstar.
it would have been to turn off the AI that's always with you.
Yeah,
Right. So.
yeah. I think Code Vein, given enough time, they could probably build onto it. I don't think they will make another one. I think it's a standalone game for the Bandai.
Okay.
I don't really see it being a franchise to build off of.
Okay.
But I think it was done extremely well. And I think that they took what they've seen from
Right.
software do, and
Right.
they did it
Of the games that
almost
they-
to a T.
Of
right?
the games that they've been publishing, let's try our hand at making one of these.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that was just quickly an honorable mention for a game in 2019. It's well worth a shot, and it probably will be on sale, as we go further into the years. I've always had this idea, and this is something I may end up doing for a segment for my own channel, is re-reviewing games 10 years, 5 years down the road.
At like the lower
At
price
the lower
point.
price point.
You've talked
Is
about
it the
this.
highest? Is it like when you see a game reviewed at $59, you can be a little bit harsher or a little bit more critical of it. But when you see the same game for like less than $20 or $10, it's not a bad game. It may not be a bad game for that price. So I think that there's, in the future, when you see these
Right.
games on sale, even games that didn't make it into the top 10 are well worth trying at lower price points, because some games that end up being $10, you go, that's an amazing deal. We were just talking about like Horizon Zero Dawn for $10
I saw God
on
of War
sale.
for $10
God of War
the
on
other
sale.
day.
I mean, how much that game was already amazing, but like, how much better can it be when you're paying a tenth or 20th of the price?
I would argue they
20% of
could
the
have
price.
charged $69
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have said anything about it, right?
I definitely think there's something to that. So
Yeah.
look for some of these games as they go down, even if you're not a fan of them now or that genre. They're all well worth playing. But let's go ahead and jump into the first one. Do you want to do the same way?
So I did. Okay, so you cheated on Octopath. I cheated here a little bit.
Okay.
I couldn't pick a 5, so
Yeah,
I got a
fair
5A and a 5B.
which one do you want to start with?
Start with the B.
Okay. We're going to crank through these a little bit faster,
yeah.
since there's less to talk about necessarily.
Yeah. So this is called Deathloop. Not very much is known about this game,
Yep.
but every single game Arcane makes has been excellent.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll just go ahead.
This is the French studio.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with
remember
the
this.
name Arcane, they made the Dishonored franchise,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love. But I'm also at a point with Dishonored where after a couple games,
Yeah.
if they make Dishonored 3, I will probably play Dishonored 3.
Oh, sure.
I am very interested in this, like, there's something with time travel, and you die and are reborn, and something tells me maybe these two characters are one and the same. So just conceptually, it's got some things that I'm very excited about. Like,
yeah, it definitely looks like there's.
The longer that I'm out here,
The more certain I am.
of what
Sorry,
I
don't
have
want to give anything away. There's something that goes on in the newest Star Wars movie, the last one, where they're doing some connection, and it's similar to this.
right.
The two characters, they do some weird kind of crazy time loop type thing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's cool.
Sure.
I thought it was cool. Not that we won't stop talking about Star Wars, but I think that they do kind of a similar thing with this.
Okay.
I started to think about it like
Interesting.
more and more, and I'm like, I was surprised that you brought this one up, but not that surprised. We've talked about it before, but I didn't think it would make it into your top 5. But yeah, I think there's this kind of cool component to it where in real time things happen.
Yeah, so one thing I tried to do on my list is I tried to not. There's already a couple sequels in my list.
Yeah.
I could have very easily picked 5 games coming out this year that have sequels, and I tried to not do that because I'm a really big fan of, if you ask me, do I want to see someone try a new IP or make a sequel, I will almost always say try to make a new IP.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that.
So.
Do you want to do your
yeah,
5A?
so and then 5A real quick. This was just showed off the other day.
Damn it.
And so Capcom commissioned a team to go take the tech from Resident Evil 2 and go make Resident Evil 3.
Yep.
Right.
We heard about this like prior to the announcement because there was like a leak on the
From the PSN images.
on the PlayStation Network.
And they've done something. They've done a couple things here that I really like. A, we're gonna go remake Resident Evil 3, which, if you thought Mr. X was a pain in the ass, welcome to Nemesis, because that's going to be really fun.
Yep.
They're also packaging this with Project RE.
Which Baltimore's played for us and played for my channel or our channel together, but he had a little bit of an experience with it, and I'm happy about that. Unlike RE2, where I still like the game, I think that making a additional game packaged in with it, like with a new set of characters, new kind of thing to it, it's well worth like the effort to go out and do that, because you're going to get people that really like Resident Evil 3, and obviously it's going to look good, but this other component, you're going to build a new, hopefully Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th style, mechanic, where you can sit there and have people play and continue on beyond like everybody finished Resident Evil 3,
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it definitely looks good. I'm interested enough. I like the first person thing that they did there.
What the hell?
I don't know if that'll be an option.
I would love for it to be an option.
Have you've seen the mod of Resident Evil 2? I showed you
have,
where it's
yeah.
it looks really good.
Yeah.
Like it's a mod. Somebody did this.
Yeah.
And I mean they can make it work.
Yeah.
But who knows? I'm not expecting them to. But.
It would be a really cool option. I loved it in 7.
Yep.
So yeah, this is not a. If you've already played, we kind of lightly talked about this, but if you've already played, it's not. They do change some stuff where like you don't just have the answer to every puzzle off the bat. But the game looks great. I really love survival horror games.
Yeah.
So I've already bought this game. So,
Yeah, it'll be a great addition to see coming in 2020.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be early 2020, right? We're talking about
I
March.
believe it's April.
April. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had a really good success with launching, traditional IP or familiar IP around the beginning of the year. which has been good to them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm looking for good things for that. Okay, so the first game in mine, again, we kind of stick with this like
I see a trend.
action.
I see a trend.
Yeah, you kind of start to see a trend. Nioh 2. There was a pre-alpha that came out earlier in the year, and it was, I think, available on PS4
Yep.
only. Again, it's going to be a exclusive for PS4 initially, I think.
Yeah, wasn't the last one the same way?
Yes, but it did go to PC.
It did.
It did
Right.
make it over to PC. Nioh 2. So Nioh, if you haven't played it, is very similar in the lines of like many of the games we talked about tonight, like Dark Souls, Sekiro. It's actually closer to Sekiro than it is anything.
Right.
In terms of the theme that you work with. But it's got this really eccentric, ancient, feudal Japan kind of vibe to it. And you've got these little, what are they called? The Doki. Oh, they're called Odachi? Odami? Whatever those little critters are. And you play, well, in the previous one, you played a Irish samurai.
Okay.
And he made his way into...
I've only played. I haven't beat Nioh 1, so...
A lot of people didn't, unfortunately.
It was a free game the other
It
month
was
here.
free in November, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Excellent game. Oh, you'll be ordering Resident Evil 3, Baltimore? Yeah, I can imagine. I figured that.
Absolutely.
Brooks already got it, too.
Absolutely.
But those are the yokai. I think that's what
Okay.
they're called, yokai. So you have this, like, crazy take on, like, feudal Japan in this really vibrant world built around kind of a Dark Souls, Sekiro style gameplay. And it's just... It's a really solid platform to build an amazing like Souls-like game on.
They did something really cool in the first game that I liked, where you started dealing with gear rarity, gear sets.
Yep. Oh,
right?
the stances that you have in this are really intricate.
So, but I have one ask, in that they make it so you can play co-op before you beat the level.
Yeah, the unfortunate component and kind of the concern that I would have as well is that what they would force everybody to do is play, and there's reasons they wanted to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Team Ninja's involved in this game as well, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Okay.
But they wanted you to beat the level prior to being able to do co-op with your friend.
Right.
So both people had to beat the level to be able to play the level together.
Right.
That can be problematic in the sense of like maybe your friend's not as good as you, or maybe they just don't understand the way the game plays, or whatever that might be, that you can't jump into their world just to be able to help them get through the level.
Right.
That, I don't like that necessarily. I'd rather see it just be a single player game then. Very similar to Sekiro, right? Like if that's the way you want it, then just make it that way. But if you truly want to have it as like a co-op experience or ability to play and help each other through the game, then why not make it to where they can play together? Maybe it's on only like normal difficulty you can do that. On extreme difficulty you can't, but like allow people to choose to be able to play together even if they can't complete the level.
Right.
Right. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite. When people ask what I like most about the From Software games, it's that I usually get to play with my friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a real big advantage to these games. They the difficulty level lends to like, hey, let's help each other out, and it's really fun to be able to play with other people. And then there's the other component of the Dark Souls world where it can be brutally difficult to have that open because then you can get invaded. And especially when you're playing with co-op. So they offset the ability to make the game a little bit easier by having co-op, by having the ability to be invaded at the same time, where then it becomes like a real fight. Right?
When you got a human chasing you down.
When you got a human chasing you down that's 100 levels higher than you. That's where it can really be tough. So this is what I'm looking forward to. But it's going to, tentatively be with, I hope that they do it better this time.
Okay.
Nioh was good the first time, but I hope that they have some changes and adjustments to it. So you want to go with number 4? On yours?
Yeah, I'll grab number 4. This game, I know many people that put this as their one, and the reason it's not is because I've already played Last of Us, so I'm a really big fan of the first game.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan that you're not playing Joel this time around, and you're now playing... Sorry, if you're listening to this, you kind of know what happens at the end of the game because Ellie's still around.
Yeah.
Right, but you play as a more like adult version of Ellie.
It was pretty tough by the end of the original Last of Us.
She becomes like a little hardened criminal at the end of the first game. Yeah.
So
right?
she's
So
definitely a tough person.
So thematically, they're doing some stuff where the first game's kind of about like the love you had for your daughter and for this girl Ellie, and I think they're kind of turning that on its head, and now this game is kind of about
Come back.
hatred and revenge. They're calling it Last of Us Part 2, which makes me think Last of Us Part 3 is a thing. It's at some point
it
down-
does. Well, it feels like that, and Naughty Dog is the developer, and they kind of build for continuation.
Right.
Right. They don't necessarily do one and done so much. So
Yeah, and I could have argued that Last of Us 1 ends where it ends, and that's
Yep.
that.
I could have seen that.
And I would have been okay with that.
Yep.
Now, if, it is a sequel to a game, so it fell a little bit lower on my list, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited about another Sony exclusive, because
Yeah.
I kind of love all of them. So,
Yeah, they do a good job.
yeah.
I have mixed feelings on Last of Us. I don't dislike the game, but it's not my favorite game
Right.
I've ever
We've
played. Right?
talked about this, yeah.
And I know that for some of our friends, they definitely think that this is the best that they'll ever see. Right?
Sure.
It's like that. I don't believe they believe that. I think that they really like the game, but I think that they know, there will always be room for new and improved things, right? Regardless of the franchise. But I will say Naughty Dog did an amazing job, and they really do build a story that is touching and also brutal at the same time, and like it's really not like a holds bar kind of thing. Like they hit you right in the beginning of the game if you've never played it.
Right.
Like they go right for the heart.
Right.
When you see the first game.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that there's going to be some big thing that happens in Last of Us 2, like right off the bat.
I have a similar expectation.
Yeah. Like I can definitely see that, and they will have like, it will be brutal from the beginning to the end kind of thing in it, right?
Yeah, one thing about Naughty Dog as a whole is I'm really chomping at the bit for their next game to be original, because I don't.
Yeah.
Again, if they came out with Uncharted 5, I would probably play Uncharted 5.
Yeah.
But I really like how Uncharted 4 ends.
They don't need to continue at all.
And so I would love to see them, just like they did with Last of Us, come up with another new IP. I would love to see what they're working on next that's not a sequel to an existing game.
Yeah, me too. I would like to see that as well. So my next one for 2020 is an indie game. And indie's becoming funny to say, especially when Devolver Digital is involved.
Right.
It's
right.
These guys are dealing with like levels of budgets, or their war chest is getting bigger and
They're
bigger.
not indie budgets on some of these anymore.
No, not
but
really. And they're an indie publisher, but they have, resources available to them. This is Carry On. And this is a game where you play as the villain or the monster in this game. Not like somebody trying to get away from that or trying to save humanity. You're trying to end it, and you're trying to kill it and eat everything possible.
I already love this.
And the game starts out as you're an experiment in a secret like laboratory in the government, below the ground, and you become, I don't know, sentient or whatever, and you like start tearing into people, and the more you eat, the bigger you get. And then there's strategy to it and the way you take people down, because they can shoot you and you die pretty quick in it. So this was a game that actually has been talked about for a few years, and they've been showing it off at different events, about PAX, E3, things like that. They just put the demo out earlier this year, and then they had a big push for it during the Steam Video Game Awards. I think they called it, what did they call that? Steam Game Days or Demo Days, I think they called it, where essentially they put like brand new games that are not available today that will be coming out in 2020. They were showcasing them off. You could download the demos, play them for 2 days, and then the demos stopped working. Carry On was one of them. Although the demo had been out, I don't know if it's the exact same demo. There was a demo sitting on the page for beginning of the year, mid part of the year. It had been on there. So A lot of people didn't play it. The game is excellent. So far, what I played, it's got its own unique take on, trying to get through the levels, find your various different paths, get skills, get upgrades, move through, have new ways of getting through the level. Obviously, you're trying to eat everybody and kill everybody in sight, so it's got that component going for it, which is never bad. And it's just, hopefully the bad guy wins in this case.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it looks really fun. So I enjoyed it. I don't know if the demo is still out there. I'll look it up for everybody while we go through here. But yeah, might be able to play it on Steam. It could still be up and running.
Do you know when it actually launches?
It's sometime early 2020.
Early
They don't
2020.
have it. And they've actually taken the demo offline. So
Okay.
there is no demo now. There was one up until the point where they did the demo days, but it's gone now. But it looked for this one. It's from Devolver Digital. The developer is Phobia Game Studios, and they've done a really good job, and it looks really cool. So it will be on Switch more than likely as well, because everything that Devolver Digital does goes to Switch.
Right.
So you'll be able to find it on consoles, at least that one. So let's jump over to the next one. This is, you want to go with 3?
Yep.
Okay. Obviously, this is a big hit.
Yeah, so this game easily, I've seen a lot of people's most anticipated list. This game is near the top of almost every single one of them. CD Projekt has become one of the, what do you want to call them? Sure bets.
Premier
right?
developer. Yeah. There's so many different things. That's cool. I never noticed that actually. It's like your BMW. When you got out of the car,
with
like
the puddle,
shines on the
puddle
ground.
lights. Yeah.
That's
Now, I've been somewhat open about this. I don't care for the Witcher games. They're good games. I don't care
you
for...
just don't like the genre.
I don't care
like
for
the
fantasy,
high fantasy kind of stuff.
really at all.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I've never really fell in love with Witcher 3. I own the game. I've got all the DLC for it.
Yep.
So the second someone was like, they're doing an open world sci-fi RPG, I am about the world's easiest sell on this.
Yeah.
I love like the cyberpunk settings just in general.
Yeah.
I find it to be a very fun take in a video game. You can deal in tech that's kind of around the corner.
Yep.
Right? This game looks great. It comes from a credible developer. I've been really careful to not watch very much about this because I kind of just want to play it.
Yeah, again, I'm the same way. I don't like watching a lot of like spoiler stuff.
And then they did something that I'm a huge fan of that a couple of games have done, whether it was Quantum Break or Control or Death Stranding, where they went out and they got some Hollywood talent to appear in the game.
Yep.
And now you've got Keanu Reeves in this, so my expectations are... I will be disappointed if this is not like 9.5 or 10 of 10. That's
I think you'll
where I'm
probably
at.
see it up in that echelon. Like it's gonna be up against some big Game of the Year candidates. Obviously, I think unless Naughty Dog does something wrong, which I doubt they will.
Right.
Last of Us 2 will be up there right at the end of the
Probably.
year. Cyberpunk will be up there at the end of the year. It's going to be hard to say who goes and gets like the Game of the Year. I think this game will. I'm already full prediction like this is going to be the Game of the Year.
If I had to put my bet on 2 or 3 games, I would have a big pile of chips on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, this one I think there's going to be so much to it, and they have that ability and skill to do this, and they know how to make people happy. They, if you don't know CD Projekt Red, their sister company or the company, their child company is GOG, goodoldgames.com, where you can go buy other games that are usually DRM free, and they put all of their own stuff on there, and they give you so much DLC and free stuff for it. But they don't stop there. They put it on every other platform.
Right.
They don't care about that. They're not trying to keep things to themselves. They try to make it completely available to everybody. And this game just looks phenomenal. And I imagine that they're going to make, the Steam version available at the same time everything else is available, and it's going to look awesome.
Yep.
And it's exciting. When they showed this off at Microsoft, I was thinking Microsoft was getting something exclusive.
That's what
they got Keanu Reeves, because right at the point of this part of the video, this is what they showed off at E3. There's Keanu Reeves, and he actually walked out on stage to do some discussing about it.
Oh, I love this so much.
Yeah, it was a really cool component of E3.
Yeah.
Looks really good. Excited for Cyberpunk, and then they do all this stuff, all the extras that you'll be able to get, the collector's edition. It's exciting.
Well, their CD Projekt is very transparent.
They are.
Right.
Yep.
And I don't mean to say that other game companies aren't. They're just a lot more transparent than many others care to be.
I would agree with that.
So.
I think that, what you see from them is they're very open about everything. They want to, give everybody the full story. They don't try to hide things.
Right.
They go straightforward. My next one, it's kind of a hope that it actually comes out.
I kind of predicted that you were going to have this on your list. So
I'm gonna find where in the okay. I have been a huge fan of pirateering for years, and that's been well known.
Right.
In life and in video games, and I think that I've been looking for a solid pirate simulator, and the closest thing that I can say that's out there now, Atlas is getting better.
Okay.
It's had a rough start, but the closest thing that I think was really an amazing pirate game was Assassin's Creed 4.
Black Flag.
Black Flag was an amazing game and looked beautiful. And I always said, God, Ubisoft should just make a pirate game.
Right.
Well, they're trying.
Right.
They haven't been able to get it off the ground yet. They've had a pre-alpha build out there. This is Skull and Bones. It's tentatively still scheduled for 2020. Mm-hmm. Ubi's went through some issues, though.
Right.
They have pushed a lot of stuff back. Watch Dogs Legion is another. I should have had my 3A and 3B.
Right.
Because Watch Dog Legions would have been in one of my top 20.
It was my 6.
Yeah.
It was,
Looking forward to
just
that.
missed the cut.
Skull and Bones, though, I really want to be successful. I wanted for Sea of Thieves to be successful. I have not been able to find a good quality pirate game.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that they have delayed this for the right reasons, because I think you and I kind of agree that the last few Ubi games have felt like, where does Watch Dogs 2 end and Assassin's Odyssey begin, and where does that end and Division begins, right? They've all got these, the map is kind of similar.
Yeah.
The level design is kind of similar, right? So I'm optimistic that they caught themselves before doing it again. So I would like to think that what they've shown off from this game conceptually looks really cool, and I don't really feel like anyone's nailed. People have nailed awesome pirate movies, but I don't feel like anyone's nailed, what's the premier pirate game? To your point, it's Assassin's.
The closest thing is Assassin's Creed, as far as I know. I mean, we really. I remember we went down to E3, and you're like, all I'm going to play is Sea of Thieves.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're like, it's not the greatest.
I kind of lucked out, and I got to.
I do too.
When we were down there, I got to play it, and then our friend over at Microsoft got us a couple of keys, and we played it, and it just left me wanting a little more.
Yeah, the Sea of Thieves, like I said, it's gotten. It was not the greatest, because we got the keys early on, launch day, and really were disappointed with it. It's gotten better, to your point, Baltimore. I know you play it. And
I've heard
definitely
that.
Gotten better.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something that's a little bit more than just multiplayer.
Me too.
I want Skull and Bones to be give me Pirates of the Caribbean.
I want to be building the ship. I want to be raiding some treasure. I want to find some fellow piraters.
Yeah.
We're going to go pirate together.
I want to be able to play on my own. I want to be able to play with people. I want it to be Dark Souls of pirates or something like that. That's sadly where I'm at these days, is I just play those a lot. So.
Right.
But this one looks really good. The pre-alphas looked amazing. I hope that they can get it out in 2020. I still question that. I still don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah, well, because they've got slated. They have
so many
They have
games.
Watch Dogs Legion. That what is it? God and Monsters, and this are all kind of like tentatively coming in the future. But
Oh,
we
and
don't-
yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but they'll probably have, new Division DLC that they'll be pushing. They'll. I hope they don't do another like a third. What's that one that they've been trying to push down everybody's throat?
Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Ghost Recon Breakpoint 3
gosh.
or whatever. God, please don't do that.
I guess it's kind of Wildlands 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I hope that they don't go down that road. And do
Well, because I think one of their next game is they've got that virus thriller Rainbow Six game.
Yeah.
Coming out as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll
into this
jump to
We've got a few left, so we're going to
we'll jump into tonight on Brooks's list of upcoming PlayStation games. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, some of these are exclusive to PS3.
Yeah, this is one thing that if you watched and kind of looked at what I picked for 2019 and you're looking at 2020, every single one of these developers, all you need to do is kind of just say the name of the developer and I'm really in.
Yep.
Right. So Ghost of Tsushima.
Yep.
It's done by Sucker Punch. They're actually like 2 buildings down from us.
Yeah, like a real, really solid team.
This is sort of the last of the. Here about a year ago, Sony kind of had the big 3 left, which was Death Stranding,
Yep.
Last of Us, and Ghost. And in a way, this is probably the game I'm most excited about because with Death Stranding, I loosely knew what we were getting into. Like
Yep.
I didn't understand the mechanics of the game, but I knew where it was coming from.
Yeah.
Last of Us 2, same thing. I roughly know how I think the game will play, how the story will be told. This one, I'm really excited to see Sucker Punch deviate because in the past they've made Infamous games, which have all been really good.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Infamous was not a bad platform to build off of.
Yeah, but I love that they're taking a swing. They're talking about some kind of systems designed of no waypoints, no arrows on maps, a truly more open experience. We've seen a glimpse of the combat
Yep.
of this. This game looks stunning.
Yeah, if this is in-game,
And this is like, I've watched this, I took it home and I pulled down like the raw, like you can go pull down like the 4K
Yep.
with HDR enabled.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I'm like, you're sure this isn't a PS5 game? Right?
that's what I've been thinking, man. It's like, why even try to put it on a PS4? Like, just make this your title of the year, your premier title, right?
Right.
But that's the thing. It's going to depend. I mean, the PS5 will launch probably close to the end of next year. They'll probably do somewhere in the realm of like 4 to 6 million units before the end of the year, and they've got 110
Right.
million units out, 108
Right.
million of the PS4.
Yeah.
So you can't really not address that.
Yeah, so my expectation is like this and Last of Us and maybe Death Stranding are all going to get bridge
I
releases.
could see that. Yeah.
Or maybe you pay a few bucks, or maybe Sony's just going to be like, hey, you bought the game, you're going to get the update to it for your
Yeah.
next system or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
if they allow that, kind of, hey, you get to carry it forward to your next system. That's always a good Samaritan role, and I think that, definitely the way Sony has a leadership on the console generations, they don't want to concede anything. Not that I've seen much from the S series,
Right.
whatever they're calling it.
Yeah, right.
But who knows? But Ghost of Tsushima looks really good.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the gameplay of this actually is.
Yeah, me too. I'm very interested. So we'll see. I mean, it's a beautiful looking game. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of good things come out about it. Let me jump to mine. These are the last 2 from each of us. The next one that I wanted to talk about was Spiritfarer. So this is a indie game, and this is being developed for 2020 release. Probably going to be late 2020. They've had the demo. This was again during the Steam demo days.
We played it here the other night.
Yeah, from Thunder Lotus Games. We saw this, Scott and I, when we were at PAX West, saw this.
You actually went down and talked to him.
Actually went down and talked to him, did an interview with him. Fantastic looking game. Really another one that like talks about like how life ends and how death is perceived by people, and it uses these spirit animals or animals within it, and then they are on their transition.
I love the art style
to
of this.
the other life, to the next life kind of thing. And they're all unique characters, and you have to build. There's farming in it. There's going to be like resource management in it. There's going to be building. There's going to be, you have this fairy, how to make it better for them. There's just a lot of like the top things that people want to see in an indie game. It's already there. Looks beautiful. The story's already built out. You have, your relationships that you're building with each of the characters that you run into that better off your endpoint. It's got there's fishing in it. Everybody loves fishing.
Right.
It's got a really touching story to it as well. So I think this is going to be one of those games where it may be at like that, Disco Elysium
Right.
type or Untitled Goose Game. By the end of the year, I think they will have a solid title on their hands, and this is another indie that's going to be able to show off like, hey, here's what you do without the big budgets.
Right.
And it'll be on Switch, it'll be on everything. It's just one of those things. Somebody will publish it like limited run games or something like that, make a nice physical collector's edition.
I remember when I'd be growing up and I'd be watching, Saturday cartoons or whatever,
Yeah.
and being like, man, at some point, the games are going to look like this, right?
Oh, and what it looked like.
And it took, it took me 20 years to get there or whatever, but it looks, I guess what it kind of reminds me of in a way.
It is all hand drawn.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like sort of what Cuphead tried to do. I really like this.
Yes, yeah, unique art style.
Yeah, that it's not trying to be like I'm being hyper realistic.
Yep.
It's got its own style that just looks really beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's I'm looking for good things from this. It's something I've been excited for probably 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to it. The PAX video. This was the number one game that I had for PAX. It was my game of the show. So
I remember talking to you about
really
this when you got
excited
back.
for it. Let's jump over to. I think this is your last one. This is your number one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we did it again.
Oh, no big
Giving
deal,
it
no
away.
big- no big deal.
Let's see. So I was surprised at this.
I went back and forth quite a bit. It would have been easy to just take Sony's games and put them at the top of my list.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you why I put Dying Light 2 at the very top of this is, unlike some of the other games, I actually went through and I watched Techland publish this video about a few months ago. And silently, Dying Light 1 was one of the most fun experiences I've had in a while. And it does a few things well. It tells a cool story. It's got a cool world. It's got awesome ways that you develop your character. But you also get to play with your friends, right? And that's where some of the other games in my list of like, Ghost, you don't play with your friends, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be the single player, story-based experience, whereas this one, some of the stuff they're doing, I don't even believe this is a PlayStation 4 game. I outright don't believe it.
Yeah, I know.
This-
It looks a little bit too beyond the ability of the PS4.
I like what Techland has done with DLC. I like what they've done with updates. So I'm very optimistic. It sounds like you can now, this game, you're going to be able to play with more than 2 people.
Yeah.
All the things you know and love, and if you might even want to jump into the video here a little bit to
Yeah,
show.
we'll move a little bit forward. Welcome, Nintendo Fire. Yeah, no, appreciate you stopping in and checking out the show.
But yeah, this looks like they have taken some concepts that they played with in Dying Light 1,
Yep.
and we have executed these to a really, really big level.
Yeah, I mean, Techland, I'll say that they've always pushed the edge on what they were developing. Dead Island was not necessarily. It was. They pushed the boundaries because they were making a 4-player looter shooter early.
Conceptually, it was awesome.
Right.
Right.
It played well.
Right.
It did. I enjoyed it. I played through both of them all the way. Yeah, the writing maybe not the greatest.
Sure.
But the design of the game was amazing. It looked good. When they went to Dying Light, they went over the edge. Like they made a much better game.
Yes.
The only complaint I have about that game is when you played co-op, you played with the exact same character in a co-op mode. So the two of you were running around, two same characters.
It's just kind of this
there wasn't this other
way.
Thing that they could have built to make it to where you were running around with a second partner, or one of the characters that you ran into within an NPC within the game. So I didn't like that about it, but I think that Dying Light though was a great game and technically impressive.
Right.
As they went through
Right.
and created it. So Dying Light 2 I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's interesting that it will come out before Dead Island 2. Right?
Right.
Which is bad on other levels. But Dead Island, I don't think they're missing much by losing the license. Dying Light seems to be a much better franchise for them. And they own it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that's a good thing.
So this is kind of my... sort of what I have in my head is take some of the elements we're going to get from Cyberpunk.
Yep.
And you can do them with your friends.
Yep.
That's kind of what, when I see this, when I just look at the world, I don't think I think they're going to aim really high on the story this time.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure every friend I have is going to buy this.
It's starting to remind me more of what I think. It's starting to remind me more of Metro.
Metro, yeah.
But it's actually doing more than what Metro has done.
Yes.
Right? And I think that that's a good thing because Metro is an amazing franchise.
If we had chosen to stay with
And I think Metro, the last one,
but now, this
really was a solid game trying to do what maybe Dying Light's doing right now.
Right.
They didn't accomplish it necessarily.
Right.
But
I agree.
they got close. And I think that they did a good job because there was, in the two games, you see a lot of similar things like traversal, how you use zip lines,
Right.
enemies, equipment, all of that stuff. They're really, those two games remind me of each other more than any other thing out there.
Yeah, that's very fair.
The parkour is a little bit more heavily involved in Dying Light, but no, looks good. I'm excited about it. Let's jump to the last one, and we'll probably call it a night. The last one, and really, do I think this will be... Okay, what happened here? Why did it disappear on me? Where'd our keyboard go? What happened? I'm going to have to kill it. Uh-oh. The last one may not make it. Okay.
Windows D?
Whatever its problem is, I don't know.
Huh. Okay.
But I have a backup solution for it.
All right.
I think. Do I? Maybe I don't. Yeah, something's locked on it. Let's try this real fast. Yeah, it completely.
What?
The video of Dying Light 2 hosed the machine for whatever reason. I will pull it up over here. We'll try it on the same machine. So it might look a little bit weird. The last game that I really am interested in, currently interested in right now in 2020.
I didn't see this making your list.
A pick. Yeah, I was kind of surprised at, but I thought about it. And I've been on this Square Soft. Oh, there. Now it's doing something. Okay, now we're good. Maybe. In task. I've been on a Squaresoft kick. Now, Squaresoft is no longer a company. It's Square Enix. But I've been on this kick about Squaresoft games for PS1, PS2, PS3. And I've been buying them left and right because I've wanted to finish out the collection of having all the Squaresoft games for the PS1. So, obviously, you may know where this is going. There's a game coming out. It's a remake, and I know at the beginning of the show I talked about how I don't like remakes.
Sure.
Or I don't think, it's not that I don't like them, but I don't think that they're the best use of time. I'd rather see an original IP like you were saying. Well, Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out this year, and it's coming out in a couple months, and it looks phenomenal. And I like the original Final Fantasy VII a lot. I don't know if I'm as excited about that, or I'm just excited to see like another thing from childhood get remade, or not childhood, I was
Right.
adult. But I'm interested to see this, and I think that like this makes the top of my list because they've been doing so many good things. Like I said, Final Fantasy 15 was great. Octopath Traveler is great. So Square Enix is on a roll, and I think that they're going to really do something really good with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I'm going to put it as like the height of the list for me for 2020. Not that I think it will be a Game of the Year contender. Don't think that. But right now, it's so close, and I'm on this Square soft kick that I'm interested to see what they do with it. So this is why it made the top of the list for 2020
Sure
picks.
you could.
But do I believe it's a Game of the Year candidate? No. I think Cyberpunk is that kind of a game.
I agree with you.
Yeah. But I'm interested to see what they do with this.
I
And I know that this is going to be in 2 parts, which is really weird.
Okay, so we'll touch on that briefly. I have pre-ordered this game. Anytime Sony publishes something, I'm
Yeah.
usually pretty down.
Yep.
I was talking to Chris about this here the other night. There's a class of people that I'm really excited to get to play this
Yeah.
game, and it's people that never played the first one.
Yeah.
It's people that don't know about Eris or blah 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 or whatever.
Yep.
Right.
FIFA and everybody else.
Yeah, right.
Barrett
So it's
and
like, there's moments in this game that I think are gonna play really well with
Yeah.
all this new tech.
I
You know,
believe so as well.
it has a lot to do with like cloning and cyber terrorism. So I'm into the plot, but I'm with you. I think there's a couple games that are handedly already looking like they're running away with Game of the Year. In this game, my understanding is at least 2 pieces.
Yes.
So I think the game ends when you leave Midgard.
That doesn't surprise me.
So to me, that screams like we're probably getting 3 of these, right?
Well, there were 3 discs in the original one, so just
So-
break them up there.
So I am excited. I will play. I'm really excited we have a couple friends that kind of got into Final Fantasy a little bit later, and they're like,
Yeah.
I've never played 7. I'm just like,
That's that.
Yeah, you gotta play 7 out of anything. If you don't play 7, wait, because it'll be amazing to see it the first time. But for people that like JRPGs, like even playing 7 is an amazing thing. What I'd like to see in the future is if we're going to go down this roll of remakes, there are a lot of games from the PS1 era that did not have a ton of players, because although there was a lot of PS1s, there were far more PS2s, and like people
Right.
weren't really into 3D gaming so much. They were getting there, but they weren't there. I'd love to see them redo like some Sony properties like Legends of Dragoon.
okay.
That one, pretty amazing JRPG that could be redone. And
Right,
it's a great
definitely.
franchise. And there's some other things like that I think they could go down the road on. JRPGs are changing a lot, especially in the new world.
Yes.
And I think that it's worth revisiting some of these stories and reimagining the games themselves. Again, like I said, and I'll preface it that like with Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake, I like them. I think that Capcom knows how to do them very well because they do them all the time.
Right.
Right? They like to remake or remaster things that come out. I'd still rather see more original IP moving forward than I'd like to see, remakes. But I'll take it. It looks good. It looks interesting. Like I said, they've been on a roll, so I'm hopeful that we get something good out of Resident
I'm glad we are
Final
moving
Fantasy
the
VII.
combat into something that's closer to FF15
Yeah.
and Kingdom Hearts 3, where it's more action RPG and
Yeah.
not just
Yeah, that's
click
exactly,
a button,
that's what I'm
Knights of
hoping
the
that-
Round happens or
And that's
whatever.
what they said they were going to do with this.
Right.
It's not make it like turn-based, right? It was kind of real-time turn-based. It's like words that they use for marketing, but like I'd rather see it like that than to go back to the original Final Fantasy VII. So obviously I don't
Right.
want to see that. But yeah, I agree with you, Baltimore. I think Legend of Dragoon would be an amazing game for them to bring up. So
Dino
that was
Crisis.
our Dino Crisis. Yeah, redo the Dino Crisis series. At least 1 and 2. 3 even better. 3 is space dinos. It's crazy. But yeah, those were our thoughts for 2020. We hope you guys appreciate it and enjoy. Or hope you enjoyed it. We appreciate you taking the time to watch the show each week. And you know, this was our end of the year kind of thing where we were just going to talk about things that we liked and what we saw and what we're
Right.
looking forward to. Obviously, like we said, we'd love to hear what you guys are looking forward to. Leave, if you're watching this post being a live show, leave the comment in the the comment section. Let us know what you think. And yeah, we always want to hear new games because obviously not everything gets enough visibility, right? There was a lot of games in 2019 I think didn't get enough visibility.
Oh, we could have done another hour of this,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there's plenty of games. So
I'll just sort of end it on I continue to be thoroughly impressed with what
yeah, we're glad you made it, Bolton.
with what small teams are doing.
Yep.
With what big teams are doing.
Yep.
We've been kind of playing games since we were very young, and just even over the holidays that I've had like friends and family around, and I've shown kind of a couple of the more recent games.
Yeah.
And these are people that don't really actively play games or follow games, and they're just like this looks incredible.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, you show somebody,
You know.
they'll sit there. My mother's 74, 70, 75. And she was impressed with Death Stranding. She sat there and watched
Right.
it for an hour or
Yeah,
2 hours
right.
looking at it. So, I mean, it's gone to a point where it's like watching a show.
Right. Yeah.
At least to the
Definitely.
production quality. So, it opens up to a wider audience. So, we're looking for good things in 2020. We appreciate everybody's time. We hope to see you next week. We'll be back again on Thursday. It'll be the first of
Don't know what we're
it'll be
doing yet,
beginning
but-
of the year. We don't know what we'll do, but we'll figure something out. But until then, we'll hope everybody has a great weekend, a happy new year, and we'll talk to you guys next Thursday.
Be safe.
See ya.